10, 12 in the mix.
Hi, Christabel.
Hi, Sojourner. Good afternoon.
Very good afternoon. We'll just wait for people to join and then begin.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So I think we have some 10 people here. So we'll start it up. Can we?
Yes, Sojourner, we're good.
Yeah.
We can get.
So welcome everyone to the Women at Work initiative. Today theme is to is it on centered leadership and resilience, right? I mean, if I'm not wrong. So we have here an inspiring speaker with us, Christabel, who brings over 2 decades of experience across industries like pharma, fintech, real estate, and edtech. She is currently leading marketing at UpGuard and UpGuard Knowledge Hut, helping to close the global skill gap. Her superpowers are like aligning brand, product, revenue, cohesive growth strategy without losing the soul of the company. Uh, Beyond her corporate role, Christabel is also a certified career and agile coach. She helps mid career professionals uh, get unstuck, find clarity, and design meaningful careers. Right? So let's welcome Christabel Singh as she shares insights on resilience, leadership, and designing your next chapter with intention is what. So now the everything is on to you. You can just kickstart. Hope a few people may hop into the call. So you can start with your.
All right, Saujanya. Thank you so much for that introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. Really happy to be here and to be with you and to share my experience. And by no means have I gotten everything figured out with regard to, centered leadership and building resilience. We're all learning on the go, but this is the beauty of a structure like this. And want to first of all just thank the initiative by KDEM and BAGGGEL Foundation that has made such settings possible. So, with that, let's kick into the session, and I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Yeah, visible, right, Sajanya?
It's visible.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So, I'd love for this to be an interactive session. And any questions that you have along the way, also please keep pinging. And if you want to you have comments on anything that I'm sharing, please feel free to do that. And certainly, if you can help me with summarizing those and just letting me know while
Sure,
we're
sure.
on, because I'm able to see the comments. Okay. So, yeah, this is a beautiful setting which is structured for women and all of us in the workplace, whether we are getting into it with, whether we've just gotten started or we've been doing it now for a while. And along the way, family happens, careers take different paths, right? So each of us would have gone through our various experiences with all of this. And I'm sure it's going to be more relatable because, again, it's a setting for women. I Saujanya was kind enough to give you a little bit of a brief. So just building on that again to set a better context for what I'm going to be sharing over the next couple of minutes. I've been in the workforce now for about 2 decades. Where the 2 decades went, it's been a flash. Okay, because everything is happening at the speed of life, right? And especially for women, when your career is initially you're kind of figuring out, you're putting one step in front of the other, you've just come out of college, you're a fresher, and your focus is on learning the job, right? And then along the way you get married, your family kicks in, of course different, there's no set timetable for these things to happen, but the typical, the sequence of things is this. And along the way, as our biological clock also ticks, but our career is also um, taking shape, and the criticality of things in both these tracks sometimes hit you at the same time, right? So that has been my journey, and over everything that I'm going to be sharing is really based on my personal experiences. I happen to be also a single mom today, and I have two kids. And I want to start with this one. Just a moment. I want to start with this one picture. Okay, so this is like over 10 years ago, and I found myself in a scenario where I was starting off by myself with these two children. My daughter was barely 3 at that point of time, and my son was like 2.5 years older to her, right? So these two almost toddlers, kids, and here I was kind of trying to figure how I'm going to do this. I was in the middle of a good career path. I had come back from doing my master's, my MBA, and all of that, and I was in the position of a general manager. And here I had to really balance my work. I was also getting back after a year's break after I had my kid. No, after that I had started working, and then I had to change locations. So basically, I was in a scenario where I was working from 9 to 6, and then during that time I needed to figure out how I'm going to manage these two little kids, and then so there was daycare and different arrangements. It was really a circus of sorts. But that was the mind space and uh, career space as well as personal life space that I was in at that time. And this, you have those moments that kind of shake you up, and those can be breaking moments, and but they can also be moments that make you. For me, this scenario, this is not my daughter that you see over here, but we were in a position like this where she was barely 3, and then I had left her in a daycare with my son too. And we ended up shifting many of those daycare centers too. But what you see in this picture kind of summarizes what it was for me. So there was the daycare folks, the caretakers over there who were taking care of my daughter and my son really. So and this was probably a scene that the teachers used to send updates, So this was one of the updates that used to come on my phone, and then I saw my little kid. She's not a great eater. So even if I am there at home, all of the circus happens. And here she was with a stranger, and she had to, and this was how we were. This was our action plan of how do we get by, right? So here she was trying to make sense of her situation. The lady was just doing her job, doing her best to kind of get the kid to eat. And somewhere this was a moment that really hit me. But then it also, these are moments that shape you, right? So one thing that I learned, and which kind of became a framework for everything that I apply, every situation that I'm in, whether at home or at work, is this, right? I learned along the way that I don't need to be in every moment. That was a moment in time when it was what it was, right? But thereafter, the way that we have really shaped our life, that we have designed our life. So my daughter now is in grade 6 and my son is in grade 8. And we are in a much different space now. They are much more independent. The choice of school is such that, I've been careful not to put them into a very large gathering where they become like 1 in 100 kids or 50, 60, 70 kids. I've chosen a school where they are one among a handful of children. So it's about 10 children, 12 children in their class. And that is one of the ways that we are adapting to our particular situation, right? So this is one of my guiding frameworks. I don't need to be in every moment, but how can I make sure that I'm present in the right moments, right? So this is one thing that I want to bring for to the fore at the start itself, where it's been a guiding framework for me all along. So I want to place that right at the start. We many times stress about, oh, we are not able to be here, right? And all of these things are happening, especially for women. But it's okay to take a step back and say it's all right. You don't need to be in every single moment. Just take a moment to understand what it is that is important for you and try to be present in those moments, because those are the moments that make it much more meaningful and richer for you, right? With that, let me get into the key three aspects that we're going to be covering today. One is about mindful leadership. Now, when we talk about our growth path in at work, right? Many times we tend to have like a split personality. I don't know whether you would have come across this series on Apple TV, as well as I think it's on Prime right now. It's called Severance. And Severance is a series. It's about characters who have a different personality. They are different at in their personal lives, and then they are completely different. They have no memory of what they are in their personal life at their workplaces, and in their workplaces in their personal life. Completely devoid, right? And the ironies of that is what it talks about. It's a good series that I've just gotten started with. Now, the reality is that we are not split personalities. We are the same, whether we are operating in our personal lives or whether we are operating in our professional lives. So, this is one of the key realizations that has helped me all along as well, which which really helps me realize that the strengths that I develop when I am in my personal situations. So I have like all of us in our in this particular stage of life, our parents are also aging, and as you age, you have health issues that kick in, and suddenly sometimes there's a role reversal of parent child, right? All along we've been the little child. I mean, we always will be to our parents, right? But somewhere it becomes a point where we are the ones looking after them. Just a moment, Saujanya. Yes, sorry about that. Yeah, right. So the we notice that sometimes there is a bit of a role reversal, and that was an experience that I went through a couple of years ago, and in many ways, it is a thing that I'm continuing with. Right, where my mom happens to be recovering cancer patient, and that entails all that it does, right? But those moments, the skills that you develop during that journey are very, very key to your professional life too, because it teaches you about how to manage things during a crisis, how to time box yourself, how to figure out your time management, and all of this. And all of these aspects and realizations are very, very key for us as leaders. And I found those pauses coming back to me when I'm faced with situations at work too. So, approaching life and looking at ourselves as whole people. What happens is when we go along the course of our lives, right? We Many times we find that we're very, very, very good at certain aspects and not great at certain other aspects. And sometimes it is these crisis situations that help us to realize that. Taking a pause at that point of time and just realizing that, okay, there's a lopsided development here that is happening. Um, And over the course of these 2 decades, I've worked with many, many coaches, and I'm on the path of establishing my journey as a coach as well. And one framework that has helped me a whole lot over here is looking at ourselves as whole people. Now, what you see on the screen with this image here is that of a sailboat. Okay. And the sailboat, a boat, first of all, for the sailboat to be floating on the water, there are certain things that are key criteria for it to stay afloat, right? For example, it should not have leaks at the bottom. If there are leaks, the water is going to get in and then your sailboat is going to sink, right? Now, those leaks, and this is a theory that is brought forward by Scott Barry Kaufman, who's one of my coaches, and he has written a whole lot of literature. He's one of the leading psychologists of our time, and one of his books is called Transcendence, where he breaks down, he looks at the theory of Maslow's self-actualization, which, and all of us would have seen that pyramid first, right? That you start with a particular thing, safety, security, and all of that. And then as you go along, you move further towards self-actualization and transcendence. Now, what Scott does is he looks at it through a different lens, and that lens is that of a sailboat. And here he talks about how at it's not really a pyramid because it's not like a game where you unlock each level and then you're progressing one by one towards like the top. Instead, he talks about this metaphor of a sailboat where it's about staying afloat, recognizing that there are certain things that need to be okay for a person, for us to even feel like we are afloat, right? Otherwise, we may feel like we are sinking. And what are some of those aspects? Those aspects are safety. If you find yourself in a place or in a relationship where you feel unsafe, you are not likely to be able to take the steps that you need to for yourself in terms of growth, right? You are going to be more concerned with how do I survive, right? You'll be in that survival mindset. Why is that? That is because of this, because unless you are feeling safe enough, and in general, those of us who are probably here are privileged in that we come from neighborhoods that are safe, a country which respects free speech to a large extent, and we have an environment where we are able to feel comfortable and safe. The next part of that is connection, right? And this is what we comes to the fore, whether it is with our friends, whether it is with our colleagues, whether it is with the quality of those relationships within our families too. How connected are we really feeling? And in the age of social media, that is something for us to really keep tab of, because we can have 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 followers, but we may still feel very, very alone. And it's no surprise that the loneliness epidemic is much talked about. But having very few but high quality connections and relationships is much, much more valuable than a large following as such. And the next part of that is self esteem. This is about how you perceive yourself, right? So this is, again, goes a large part to saying how secure we feel about ourselves. So the whole bottom rung talks about security. And only once these conditions are met does one feel like opening up their sail. So if you look at the sailboat, right, in an ocean, and you are departing from one place, there are infinite directions that the sailboat can take. When you are sure of, um, even though you may not know exactly which particular island that you want to get to in terms of a destination, it is important to know which direction at least you want to go in. And how you figure that out is over the course doing things that you feel are energizing you and taking up prototypes with that. And once you are comfortable with those is when you feel like really opening up your sail. And that's when you go into exploration mode. and are really able to be there. And that's where the aspect of love also comes in. And Scott talks about two types of love, the D love and B love. The D love stands for a deficient kind of a love, where it's a very codependent thing, right? You think you love the person, but you're not really being there for their growth either. Whereas the B love is really the being love, and there he talks about it really doesn't matter whether that love is reciprocated or not, but you are full of it. And that is when the ultimate aspects of opening up your sailboat and feeling like, now I really want to increase the speed of my sailboat in the direction of growth, right? These are the parts. This is really the analogy that helps us to think through this bit of a whole person approach. And if I am not feeling like um, focusing so much on myself in terms of growth, could it be that something around me is not helping me feel safe about myself? Do I have sufficient meaningful relationships around me where I'm feeling connected to myself and to the larger whole? And how am I really viewing myself? What is the language that I'm using to talk to myself? These are some of the useful um, frameworks and questions that we can ask ourselves. And also, in contrast to the pyramid, right, where it's like unlocking different levels, the sailboat analogy is really about, it's not that, establishing the bottom rung, which is your safety, connection, and self esteem, is like a once done and dusted approach. There will be different points of life, and there are different seasons. At some seasons, we may feel that there is s- there is work to be done for me. I'm not feeling like safe enough in order to experiment with this, right? At those moments of time, it is helpful to really listen to ourselves. And the picture that I showed you a couple of slides ago, that was a moment for me when things were really not ideal, so to speak. But it's just a season. You have to just recognize it for what it is. And again, that framework for me of saying, I don't need to be everywhere, but what are the key moments that are important for me? And can I design my work and my life so that I'm there for those moments? Help me to understand that, okay, it's all right. In those moments for me, it was not much about career growth, but kind of staying afloat. And when we are hit by those seasons, it's helpful to allow those seasons to pass too. And overall, I want to move forward with the key thing that growth is a direction, it's not a destination. So, and once you move in the direction of growth, our actions, and when we open up that sail, sometimes because of our sail opening up, and then there is a particular wind direction, right? It helps you to steer either in the direction that you intended, or sometimes in the opposite direction. And when that happens, again, the sail is in our control. We can slightly turn the direction, or we can evaluate, saying that this this wind is flowing in this direction. Is there a better way that I can direct it so as to make sense for me? And that was the way that I looked at my path too at that point of time. And then I took the call. I mean, within the family, we took a call for my parents to then move in with me, because they were living a little far from me, and managing both work and raising these two young children on my own was becoming a challenge. So, what I did then was get them over to my place, and that then gave me more stability. My this this boat was feeling more stable, and then I was able to kind of open up my sail and move forward too. Another framework that is really useful for us when we are balancing both career and life is to identify this, right? What is our big rocks? Now, if you see in the jar that is over here, you see certain big rocks, and then you see some medium-sized rocks, and then you see a whole lot of sand and gravel. Now, this is a place where the big rocks are really representing some very key things for us. It could be for our finances, it could be our health, it could be our quality of relationships, it could be what our career could be one of the big rocks too, right? Now the medium-sized pebbles are really the daily aspects that we come across. It could be things like, do I have my insurance in place? Do I have my health insurance, my car insurance in place? Do I have my bills sorted? Do I have my appointments for my aging parents are coming up? Do I have that sorted? Right? And the sand really represents the very, very little things that come up, which could be, I don't know, things that come up on your phone, perhaps. We are a generation that spends a lot of our waking hours on our mobiles. Are we if you look at your whole day as a battery of 0 to 100, right? How much of that battery is being dedicated to unimportant things, scrolling on our phones, spending time on the TV, and I think social media is a bigger aspect than the TV today. But how much of it is actually going in that? And here you see these two contrasts, right? The jar on the right, in the jar on the right, we proceeded to put the sand in first. And when we did that, rather the jar on the jar on the left has the sand that has gotten in first. And then all the pebbles, the small stones. And so as a result of that, what has happened is some of your big rocks are not even getting in. And this is analogous to the way our lives sometimes when we live it in default, what happens to it. Versus if we are more mindful, we make sure that we are spending enough time on our big rock, right? Taking a pause to understand what are these big rocks for us, and doing a half yearly audit and maybe a quarterly plan for how we want to design our lives. Making sure that these big rocks are getting in first, and then the smaller pebbles, and then the sand. Um, Now, interestingly, what has gone into the amount of substances, right, with the sand, the pebbles, and the rocks is the same in both. But because of the prioritization in the right-hand side one, it has accommodated the big rocks and the little pebbles and the sand, right? Whereas the one on the left-hand side, because it had the little sand, it didn't leave enough place for the pebbles, and that did not leave in place for the bigger rocks. And that would be a real tragedy when that happens. And it's important to really take a pause and understand what are we really prioritizing in our lives, because our lives are finite. The hours and the days are finite, and YOLO is true, right? You only live once. So that's been a huge realization for me too, where I'm extremely intentional about how I'm spending, what I'm allocating my energies to, what are my big rocks, and that is really what has helped me to get to this far over the 2 decades of my working life. The other framework that is really useful, and this is again the aspect of mindful leadership, and particularly things when we are faced with at work or at home. One of the frameworks that helps is to just take a quick pause, take a 30 seconds deep breath, and to ground yourself and ask yourself, what is it that needs me right now? Right? And very often it is about knowing the right thing to do at that moment. When you ask what it is that needs me right now versus what feels urgent, you will find a different answer. And that will help us to pivot. And when it is at work, you can communicate the change to your team immediately and then return this to the regular schedule of things. But always taking a moment to take that pause and thinking, okay, what is it that actually leads me right now is going to be a huge help. The other framework that I want to leave you with is many a times, and again, if I had to reflect on the picture that I showed you a couple of those slides before, right? It is about many times we don't feel comfortable where we are, but then we are having to make that decision because that is the best thing to do at that time. And sometimes you might feel that is the only thing that you can do at that time, right? Um, but many times it is also something that we subject ourselves to, which is, I want to take you to this one, the tyranny of, um, and I'll come back to the earlier slides, right? Many times we think of these frameworks of and or. Is it do I all is it am I always subject to the fact that I have to choose between being a good mother and being a good leader? And many a times this question is just in our heads. It's not really about us having to make that choice. That is a tyranny we subject ourselves to, and it's more a mindset issue than anything else. And that is why I've called it the tyranny of or versus the superpower of and. Because who has really told us that we have to choose between this or that? Right? Just because of the fact that I had to leave my little child in that daycare for that period of time, does that make me a bad mother? Who said that? Right? No, at that point of time, that was the best decision for me to have taken. And that was a huge learning for me, that it's not really about having to choose my identity either. I can be a great mom and I can be a great leader at work at the same time. And the things that are going to take me there are some of the unconventional solutions that we're going to bring to the table too. For instance, for making both work, sometimes we need to um, figure out a rhythm with our workplaces. In my case, I have an arrangement where because we are a global business, and much of our business happens in the US markets as well, right? The hours are spread through all of this. And for me to make the best of what I do, I have a lot of projects that I work on outside of work too, although I'm at the director level over here, right? But that is very, very key to me to keep my creative juices flowing. And right now, I'm in the process of skilling up on the video front and becoming a creator over there, right? While this is a complementary skill set with what I'm doing on a regular basis, it also helps me to know that I'm taking steps towards taking care of myself too. So, this framework and moving away from the tyranny of or is something that is has been extremely useful for me to keep in mind. It's not, nothing needs to operate as an or framework. We can always adopt the and framework. So be ready to question the binary of this versus this. It's not black and white, and it is okay for it to not be black and white, but come up with a solution that serves you. In what way do you need to tweak your working arrangement with your boss or with your family in a way that you are feeling that you're being there for yourself too? So it is possible to be there for yourself and to be on top of things for your family as well as for your organization or for your business if you're running one. It's really about, again, those priorities and then adopting the mindset of the and. This is also an aspect of empathetic leadership, a key aspect of empathetic leadership, whether in the workplace or at home, right? And point three over here, which has been a big turning point for me in the aspect of what has been a key strength that has brought me to where I am today. It's been communities. It's been communities. It has been coaches that I've reached out to that have helped me a whole lot. And the communities just help you to understand that you're not in this alone. None of us is an island. no man is an island, no woman is an island either, right? We are, at the end of the day, one organism, and leaning into that, into what that means, understanding that it is good to ask for help, it is good to lean on others. In my situation, again, back in that, in those days of the daycare, more than a decade ago, that was the support system that I needed at that point of time. And when I look back, I was actually privileged to be able to even afford something like that, right? There are others that I know who have had an even harder time. So just adopting that mindset that I don't need to be everywhere. I need to choose where I want to be. And those certain times that I feel that, oh, I want to be there, but I'm not able to be there, is actually a signal to us, and where we are having some kind of an identity crisis of sorts, saying, am I being a good mother, a good sister, good daughter, or a good manager and a good leader, right? So this framework of adopting the and mindset versus the or, leaning into community, and then accepting imperfection, because it's not really about um, scoring 100 on 100 everywhere. It's about knowing which are the ones that are important for us, and the less important things, it's okay if you're a 50 on those, or if you're a 60 on those, right? You don't, if you're not a great cook, and you're having to lean on someone to help you with that at home, it's completely all right, right? But it's for us to realize, okay, is that identity of being a good cook at home, for my family, that much of a big deal for me, or is that okay, right? And at those moments of time, accepting that imperfection is the way to move forward. On this aspect, there's also the guilt management, right? Where many a times we go into, again, the aspect of feeling bad about not being in a particular place. But recognizing that guilt management is half of that is actually time management. And then understanding your circle of control and saying, this is the aspect that I'm able to control, and this is something that I need to kind of let go. If I don't do this, what actually breaks? And then accepting, do I even bring any unique value here? And if not, it is okay to let me go. These are things that will serve us good, whether at the workplace or at home in our lives. So at those moments of time, understanding, should I act on it or should I let it go? And never staying in that state of stuckness in the middle, rather accepting, okay, this is it, and this is how it is. What can I do about it? What is the action that I can take about it? Taking that action and then just moving ahead from that. And many a times we find ourselves in a process, in a place where we are wondering, um, and we look at ourselves with some degree of frustration or even anger at ourselves, right? That is, this is a framework that helps us at those times, which talks about a 4-step framework. These are situations, now again, if I had to use my particular scenario, right, at that moment of time, there were periods that I went through which were not comfortable, which led me to a great degree of frustration, anger at myself. Till the time I understood that it is futile to actually be that. And a couple of things that helped me when I worked with coaches was this: articulating what you're feeling at that point of time, right? Whether it is anger, whether it is frustration, and putting that into words and saying, I'm feeling like this because of, and then you name it. Once you articulate it, you have that act of acknowledgement releases a lot for us. And then going into saying, what burden am I carrying from that particular period when things didn't really go in the smoothest way possible? And for a long time, for me, I was carrying that burden, right? But today, when I look back at it, it is not something, parts of me really wonder, how did I even get through a period like that? But then reframing it is what really helps. And then when you go into a reframe of saying, what did that period really teach me, is when it becomes a superpower that you can actually implement both at work and as you grow up the leadership ladder. Reframing it to understand, okay, what did it really teach me, and what can be my next strategic move here? So for me, in that scenario, it was about getting my parents to move in, and which would free me up a little bit in terms of being able to focus more on my career and balance that out with being there for the children and for my parents as well, right? So this framework of name it, examine it, reframe it, and then act on it is a great one that has helped me all along. Just to do a quick time check, I think we are at 12:45. We've kind of touched that, and I will not stretch on this too much from that, but I hope you've been able to follow along with these frameworks that I've put together, starting with the mindful leadership, the emotional regulation, and then going into the empathetic leadership frameworks. Before I close, I want to leave you with this one thought, and it's also three small words that are very easy for us to remember, and certainly has served me a great deal over these years and decades even. These three small words of everything is figure outable, right? There is no problem in this world, whether it is in your personal life or in your work life, which does not have a solution. It is, and many times it is just us suffering in the tyranny of the or being angry with ourselves for wanting to be in all the places. So letting go of some of that burden and then saying, it is okay, everything is figure outable. What are my big rocks? And as long as I have those in place, and even if I'm not able to fit in some of the smaller ones or the sand, it's completely all right. And so this is what I want to leave you with. Just know that everything is figure outable and your best chapters are still ahead of you. You are in a place where you've probably spent few years or decades into your working life, and all the skills that you have developed at work and in your personal life are going to stand you good, and are actually superpowers when you overlay them with the skill set, the core hard skill sets that you would have developed in your work life as well. So, with that, let me hand it back to Saujanya.
Yeah, thank you, Christabel, for all your inputs. I mean, being me into some of the situation which you have gone through, and the inputs or the way we have to handle it is that
Yeah,
clarity. Yeah, of course, everyone have that energy within which they have to bring it up. Meanwhile, I just wanted to ask the attendees if they have any questions or queries, so that if they can drop it on the chat box.
yeah.
Anyone, if you want to ask, you can also raise the hand so that I'll allow you to talk.
Just want to take a moment to thank everyone who's joined us. I hope, uh, so thank you, Bhagya, Bhavya, Deepti, Nitya, Noel, Rashmi, Shravya, and Yashaswini. I hope some of it resonated with you guys. And feel free to keep in touch. I'm on LinkedIn as well, and you can find me there. Maybe Saujanya can share the LinkedIn link as well. And yeah, so if you have any questions here or you would like to connect later, because some of this really takes a bit of processing and reflecting back on our own experiences. So happy to exchange notes. I think that's great. There is great power in us coming together as a community and being there for one another as we go through our journeys. So it's been a pleasure. And we are here for a few moments if you want to ask some questions. Yeah, I think it's the middle of the working day for folks,
Hmm.
and probably
Yeah.
they would be in different situations and physical I mean places also right now. So that's totally understandable. Um, Thank you, Saujanya.
Thank you. We are
It's been a
grateful
pleasure.
for your time, your wisdom. So let's see if we can connect once again and have a wonderful session on the similar kind of topics. Um,
Totally.
so yeah, thank you for that joining us today and being with us. Um, See you
Sure.
again.
Thank
Uh,
you so much,
have a good
Saujanya.
day.
Yes, have a great day, everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Bye.
you.